What's up, boys?
Look who decided to show up.
The cat dragged in.
This is going to be a disaster. Leave it. I'm a link bending machine.
You're doing it too. Your back window just fell.
Fluffernutter in them.
Do it justice.
What's up, boys?
Gentlemen, there comes a time in every man's life where he needs to just take a step back and build a stock chassis. Stock chassis, stock body, stock axle, seat time rig, a daily driver. I've done it. I've finally done it. I know this is hard to believe, but this is me holding a stock body, stock chassis build. A couple goals with this build. I wanted to make it simple enough for new people to follow. That means not doing a bunch of weird DIY stuff and have a good solid build. I also wanted something that I could just throw in my backpack, go mountain biking with, stop and slay some lines along the way. In this video, we're going to take an in-depth look at everything I did to this, all the parts I used, and how I set it up. We're going to go test it, see how she does, and then at the end, I'll talk about, if anything, stuff that I would change. First, give you guys a good look. I wanted to keep it as stock as possible. The body is not cut, full fenders. Huge shout out to this guy. Not him. Huge shout out to this guy, Lucky7. I reached out on Instagram looking for one of these bodies. He hooked it up immediately. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Potential sleeper build. Something I've been interested in for a while. This is an easy build for new people to follow, and also I'm hoping this is an inspiration to dig out your stock chassis and do something with them. We got the corner weight scale set up thanks to Nacho Crawlers. Total weight 450, 64% in the front, 36% rear, and then 50-50 side to side. That was weighed with the battery in. I don't know if I said that or not. Battery sits right there. Okay, first thing to talk about, these sliders and the parts that come with the sliders. Robskii Fab just made this stock chassis kit. This is the whole reason for this build, by the way. This is what got it started. So we have rear shock mounts, front shock mounts, and sliders. Robskii flat skid. We're also using that. With these chassis mounts, they sit on the outside of the rail, which is going to space your shock out more. So depending on your setup, you can see I have spacers on the bottom here, on the bottom of the shock, to help make up for it sitting everything out more. The front, I ended up having to put my shock mount on the inside of the rail, because with how far the shock ended up being spaced outward, paired with the narrowness and paired with the steering, as soon as it would start to steer, the tire would just hit the shock. So by putting the shock mount on the inside, that kind of helped the whole shock situation be moved inward and I can get my full angle out of it. Also, while we're at the front end, I chopped the front of the chassis rail off. This is a piece that always gets in the way of the servo area, never allows it to flex right. Not something I ever use, so I just take these and clip it off. Tires I'm using, Jconcept Tusk. These are the inserts I'm using. Crawler Innovation, micro single stage soft. You get these big pieces and then you just cut a little section however wide you want it to be. This is extremely cheap. These are, I think, $2 or $3. Wheels. Nothing too crazy going on here, besides the extremely rare one-of-one Carnage beadlock rings. But besides that, they're just an Injora wheel. The main thing for the wheels, I have brass rings in the front, aluminum in the rear. I think I said I didn't cut the body earlier. I did have to cut it. I cut the bottom, a sliver off the bottom of each side. That way it would fit flat on the sliders. If you don't cut it, it wants to sit like that, for me at least, for this setup. Link situation, super simple. They're just Injora C10 length, nothing crazy. I forgot to mention for the rear links, I unthreaded each end like 1 or 2 threads, same with the upper links down in here. The only reason I did that was to try and center the wheel and tire better with the wheel well. Certain angles it just looked like it was sitting too far forward and it was driving me nuts. So I think unthreading those helped it get a better fitment. For the front upper, I am using the original plastic 3-link. Kind of hard to see. And I'm doing that because I lost the upper links of these. Also, Partying Guy Dave has sent a couple trucks that had the plastic upper 3-link. So it must somehow be good. And that's why I'm using it. Drive shafts, front and rear, both stock plastic. I've had no issues with them in any of my trucks. Shocks. Injora 39mm oil shocks. The fronts have the softest spring as well as a rubber band. These are the little rubber bands that I've been using. I get these from Michael's craft store. Rear shocks. I'm using a stiffer spring, the chrome spring, with no rubber band. So the rear setup is a lot stiffer than the front. Electronics, once again, tried to keep it simple. Injora Purple Viper brushless motor with a stock transmission, paired to the Injora brushless ESC. The downside is it's bulky, takes up a bunch of room, bunch of wires, but I wasn't worried about that since we have all this space in here. Everything fits fine. Remote and receiver, I also kept this one simple. Turbo Racing. This is an Amazon remote, cheap, easy to one-hand. It holds, I don't know how many vehicles. It holds a bunch of vehicles. And the receiver I have wedged in between the 2 metal rails. You can also take this plastic case off the receiver to save space, but I'm fine with it being how it is. The battery, I have Velcroing on this side. This came from Amazon, Tattu, that's the brand. Cheap, works well, and it has the factory style plugs, which I like. Nothing to solder. Servo. Reefs 99 micro servo. This is another part that you can just kind of replace with whatever you want. Bunch of different options that work well. Metal steering links. I replaced the plastic links because once you start getting a lot of weight and a lot of pressure, they just flex too easily. Cheap upgrade, worth it in my opinion. Rear axle. Nothing crazy going on with the rear axle. The only thing I did was replace the gear in here. I put a Injora 1/12 gear, which slows down the rear by, slows down the rear by 33%, which means the front's going to spin faster. That helps pull us up stuff, and it also helps you steer sharper because the front's kind of pulling you. It should be noticeable when we go film on the rocks that the front spins faster. Front axle. This is probably the most complicated part of this build. Injora brass diff cover, brass knuckles, upgraded axle shafts, and I cut the axle housings. And then I have 2 tungsten weights glued into like the little axle pocket on each side of the servo mount. The tungsten weights I found at Hobby Lobby in the Pinewood Derby car section. They're like weights for your little car. They also have a tungsten putty You can mold this however you want it and just stick it to your truck. This is 30 grams worth of weight right here. That's a lot. But for the front axle, I used 2 of these cylinders and E6000 glue and just stuck them right to the axle. They kind of fit perfectly right in that little slot. I did film when I was putting the front axle together to help anyone new. I will put that in right now. Alright, I used a little chrome marker to show you guys what we're cutting off. The goal is to not kill the knuckle support where the knuckles screw in at. So we're going to take a big chunk off the front and then a big chunk off the back. And this is as simple as just grabbing something like this and going at it, which is all I'm going to do. Alright, axle cut. You can see the 2 things I clipped off. This is the side after it's cut. That's what it looked like before. First knuckle on, and at this point is a good time to kind of check your clearances. You can just move it back and forth, and all you have to do is just look to see if it's hitting the plastic anywhere. Let's go test it. Good morning, boys. 6:30 in the morning, windy, cold. Perfect time. Let's see if we can turn around and smoothly go back down that. Nice, that was good. No way. This is a line that I very rarely film because the trucks can't get up it. I hope the camera shows the angle of that. So sick. Curious if we can get this in reverse. Oh, not a good start. Yeah, this isn't good. Well, we did it. Let's see if we can get up through this. This is a pretty gnarly spot. Oh, come on, please keep going. No way, dude. We'll do another downhill spot here. This is always a good test. It's pretty steep and off camber. Oh, come on, focus, please. Hang on. Can we focus? Nice. Let's see if we can keep going downhill through this little V-shaped thing. Pretty sure the rear end's gonna want to flip over itself. What are we stuck on? Oh! My goodness. Oh. There we go. There we go. Nice. Final thoughts. I could not be happier with this. I never thought I would have so much fun with a simple stock chassis build. I think I've put more miles on this in the past week than I have with a lot of my trucks total. I don't know if I'm completely sold on the shock setup. I'd like to play with a couple different other options, but for now, this works well enough. I would also like to mess around with some rear weight, maybe a brass diff cover or something brass in the wheel area, just to see how that plays a part of holding the rear end down versus letting the front lift up. Other things I need to do, I need to get an adjustable servo mount. Right now it's just a cheapo Injora mount. The servo is in like a static position. I'd like to get an adjustable one so I can push the servo back with the goal of trying to move this back. I had a couple times where this was hitting the rocks before the tires were. I would just mount this behind the servo arm, but it doesn't look like there's enough room. Stuff will be hitting if I do that. I think a roller steering link would be beneficial. I think a little diff slider type thing in the front would be beneficial. I noticed the diff getting caught a few times. And then I also think a little slider back here for the rear diff would be beneficial. None of that stuff is needed, but I think if I want to continue to add stuff to this, that's what I would do. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hope this helps somebody.
Peace.